This video contains spoilers for Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood. There is a beast that dwells within all of us. Its name is the call to violence that stirs in our breasts, the desire to dip our hands into our wells of animalistic rage, to destroy that which is in front of us, to grasp the hated foe by the neck and squeeze the very life out of them. For most, it is little more than a yapping hound, perhaps brought about by losing our temper in a heated moment, or indulging in a little too much drink. It may drive us to howl and impotently flail at whatever has provoked us, before subsiding and leaving us with our wits once more, and whatever petty destruction we might have caused in the meantime. There are some, however, for whom the beast within is as a raging fire, a terrible weapon, sharper and more destructive than any sword or bow, for it is capable of slaughtering friend and foe alike. One such as this cares not from where the blood flows, only that it does. One such as this will wage war again and again and again, until death finally takes them and lays the raging beast to rest. This power is an intoxicating one, for who does not wish for the strength to destroy one's enemies so utterly, so swiftly, with such terrible violence? Whatever price that might be paid to wield such a weapon would surely be worth it, we might tell ourselves, so long as we might crush our enemies with it and see them driven before us. We take hold of this awful blade, and hold it aloft, drunk on the power surging through our bodies as we lay into our foe. We are invincible. We are become death. Then we awaken from our bloody rampage as if from a dream, and behold the ashes in which we stand. Such is the price of this power. But like any beast, with the proper cage, the proper collar, and the proper knowledge, this primal instinct within us can be tamed and controlled. Thus we turn the beast within into a protector, the mother bear, the father wolf. This is a tale of a way of battle, a path trod by combatants who sought the power to destroy and did not fully realize what destruction that power would write, and a new way to wield it found by those with the strength and courage to tame the fury within, turning a force of annihilation into a force of guardianship. This is a tale of the warrior. At the northern edge of Eorzea is Abalathia's Spine, a great mountain range that sits atop the continent like a crown. There, you will see ice and fire swirling together on craggy peaks, from which molten earth spews forth as if the very land itself cries out in fury. The people who live in such desolate wastes are the Hellsguard Rogadin, who are not too dissimilar from our own Rogadin peoples in Othard in terms of appearance, aside from some differences in the color of skin and hair. These Hellsguard are a tall, broad, and well-muscled people, carving out their livelihoods in defiance of frost, storm, and mountain stone. In the 6th Astral Era, the tribes of this land produced many great mercenaries who ventured south, and in the southern lands they found work aplenty. In those days, the myriad nations traded in strife and battle as much as they did in coin and commerce, and so long as the fires of war raged on, so did the demand for strong sword arms. One such group of northern mercenaries practiced a peculiar martial art, an art where the combatant would call upon an inner rage. By doing so, they would enter a berserk-like state, unleashing their aggression and fury, and bringing ruin to all before them, be they friend or foe. They would come to be known by a name as straightforward as their brutal axe strikes: warriors. At the time, such collateral damage was worth the price. So long as the enemy was destroyed, surely, thought the clients of those mercenaries, we could simply rebuild in the wake of such devastation. And indeed, for a while, these mercenaries were much sought after, even if their many victories were tainted by the many deaths they caused among their own allies. But time passed. Peace came to rule over Eorzea to a large extent. War and devastation was no longer the way of things. Soon, the paymasters who hired these warriors began to realize that whatever profits they had reaped with victory, they would pay a far higher price in needless bloodshed and reconstruction. The realm now needed disciplined soldiers, not wild-eyed beasts seeking to slaughter all before them. A hound that could not be leashed was of no use to its masters. Thus, as the realm slowly moved towards stability, the warrior arts ebbed away, no longer wanted or useful, until only scattered few Hellsguard tribes in the remotest parts of the Spine still remembered the old ways. Whatever their usefulness to a peaceful realm, the techniques and armaments of the warrior are unique unto themselves. The precise state of origin of the warrior arts are somewhat unclear. The oldest records of their history were written some 5 centuries ago, but doubtless this esoteric art has existed for far longer than that, for the way of the warrior relies upon drawing forth the inner rage that dwells inside all peoples. In fact, I have heard tell of a similar art practiced amongst the Karel tribe of Zaela al-Ra in the Azim steppe. It is possible that warriors, or at least men and women who relied on unleashing their unbridled fury to crush their foes, have stained the earth red for quite some time. This nigh unquenchable rage, called the inner beast by the warriors themselves, is the ultimate source of their seemingly superhuman might. I once bore witness to this fury during a demonstration for my benefit, and I tell you now, few things on this star have left me trembling like seeing the inner beast let loose. No feat of strength seems beyond the warrior once the beast is uncaged. I have seen men hurl beastkin 3 times their size like a child tossing a toy, cut a waterfall in twain, and raise small mountains out of the earth simply by bashing it with an axe, as if beating the very soil and stone into submission with violence. It is not a graceful art. The warrior's every movement is sharp, fierce, direct, and brutal. Nothing exemplifies this philosophy more than their signature armament, the 2-handed axe, each as long as its wielder is tall, if not longer, and with bladed heads wider than an arm span, though some warriors are known to wield colossal hammers instead, or whatever weapons are at hand that emphasize raw strength and power over finesse or defense. In the hands of a skilled warrior, each blow is as a meteor, each strike capable of felling whole trees in a single stroke or sweeping aside scores of armored foes. Guarding the bodies of these warriors is thick, heavy armor of dark metal, traditionally forged by the Hellsguard peoples. It often incorporates meteoric iron forged in the lava of the fiery peaks of Abalathia's spine, then trimmed with the pelts of savage animals. It is believed that the iron and lava draw strength from the star itself, while the pelts heighten the warrior's abilities to draw upon the inner beast. This armor is not as all-encompassing as the heaviest of Doman o Yoroi, or Ishgardian plate, and to the untrained it might seem crude, as if a savage bashed some metal together until it resembled something like protection. But it is nonetheless quite effective at turning aside sword blows and arrows, and there is a great deal of craftsmanship in them to the discerning eye. Granted, a full set of warrior's garb can have a certain brutish, intimidating look to it, to those unaccustomed to Hellsguard fashion, thanks to the fur trim, spikes erupting from the plates, and the monstrous visage that the visors often evoke. Yet it is entwined with artistry, for the armor is often ensorcelled to help incite the inner beast, sometimes with seals of beastkin blood carefully inscribed on the inside, and each suit is enthralling to look upon. Peer closely at these suits, and you will find fine etchings, metal shaped to resemble the scales of a beast, and plates shaped to perfectly fit the wearer. Of course, where such rare armor cannot be found, a warrior can certainly make do with any suitably heavy panoply they can obtain. Now, it is not enough to simply heft an axe and unleash the inner beast to master the way of the warrior. This is not a path of simple exercise and contemplation. To be a warrior is to ever test oneself and to overcome great obstacles, for the inner beast can stir when faced with an opponent who pushes its master to their physical and mental limits, and to strive each day to become stronger, tougher, and faster. Those figures admired by the Hellsguard peoples demonstrate this never-ending quest for trials to overcome, such as Mithril Heart, who was last seen taking his axe to Silvertear Falls, perhaps to find one last monster to slay before he set down his mighty weapon forever. With such brutish weapons and armor, and empowered by the fury of the inner beast, it is easy to imagine the horrifying destruction this martial art can unleash on either friend or foe. And indeed, this appears to be the uncontrollable power sought by the earliest walkers of the warrior's path. If this was all that warriors could offer, then it surely would have died a quiet death in the northern wastes of Eorzea, the final axe stroke of the last warrior nothing more than the whimper of a once mighty beast cast aside when it no longer had a place in the world. But the warrior's art yet lives. Today, its practitioners can be seen among the ranks of Limsa Lominsa's armies. How, then, were they embraced by the people of the southern lands? As it so happens, there is a secret to leashing the beast. Look to the wilderness where the beastkin of nature lurk. There are some species of fiends that seem hell's-bent on violence for its own sake, true. But careful study of beastkin reveals that, though they might bear sharp fangs and sharper claws, such weapons are often employed not for mindless destruction, but for survival, for defense. A mother tending to her cubs, her paws raised and her lips curled back in a snarl, not to kill for killing's sake, but to defend her brood with her own life if need be. Such a creature taps into its inborn aggression and wields it as a weapon, yet she would not dare harm her charges. In the same vein, a warrior true does not simply let the monster out of its cage and let the earth run crimson. No, a warrior steels their will and looks to the protection of others. The axe of the warrior, as terrifying as it might be to behold, is ultimately a tool for defense, not for slaughter. The path of the warrior is the path of the protector of the cubs, the defender of the flock. By turning one's focus towards defending one's comrades, the beast may be brought to heel. This focus must needs be maintained, however. A warrior who is distracted or flustered might let slip the inner beast, even if they have previously tamed it. This vital discovery was made thanks to the efforts of a certain band of Hellsguard men, as well as one esteemed hero known to all in Doma. Of the first two, they are a pair of brothers by blood, Curious Gorge and Broken Mountain, who made their way down from their mountain homeland to Limsa Lominsa. I have had the pleasure of meeting these enterprising fellows, who felt that it would not do for the world to forget the way of the warrior, and gladly regaled to me their traditions, histories, and practices. Noticing that the axe techniques of Limsa Lominsa marauders were not too dissimilar from warrior axework, the brothers offered their services to Admiral Merlthib and the Maelstrom. After some difficulties at the start, Curious Gorge and Broken Mountain were able to enlighten Maelstrom recruits on the finer points of being a warrior. They told me that the Warrior of Light helped resurrect this esoteric art, learning at the feet of Curious Gorge at first, then discovering and mastering new techniques on their own, going on to discover the method of taming the inner beast, and playing an irreplaceable part in the Maelstrom's acceptance of this ancient Hellsguard tradition. Thanks to the tireless efforts of Curious Gorge, Broken Mountain, and the Warrior of Light, the path of the warrior now has a way forward, planting seeds in a new generation of steadfast Maelstrom soldiery. With such ferocious, yet controlled, fighters guarding the city gates, the citizens of Limsa Lominsa surely have little to fear.